It's not just being good or winning a prize. It's about being excellent, because that excellence is going to go with you at every phase of your life.
Now on the Epicenter of Women's Sports podcast with Karina LeBlanc, 3 athletes with a combined 16 Olympic gold medals.
As you continue to move up that ladder, it becomes tougher and tougher, in my opinion. You're just always having to be on.
Soccer legend Shannon Boxx.
You talk about resilience, and I think resilience would be the word to describe you.
And in the U.S. team, someone was already ready to take your spot if you didn't show up. And so for me, it was just, I'm always so critical of myself. Oh, if that wasn't good enough, that wasn't good enough, that wasn't good enough. It was always so good to have that teammate or that person next to you who's like, that was good today.
Yeah.
Just to remind yourself, you know, like you were good today.
So I was always hard on myself. I was my toughest critic as well. And so like I didn't see the vision, I didn't see my potential, but other people saw it before I saw it.
Basketball Hall of Famer Sylvia Fowles.
You were elite into your 30s. How did you play at an elite level when things were so different back then?
If you can't go body-wise, then you can't play. So knowing the boundaries of when can I sit this one out? When do I really need to take care of an injury? Can I play through a whole season with an injury? And like, who am I talking to about this?
And one of the world's greatest track and field athletes ever, Carl Lewis, share lessons that they've learned that drove their success.
Put it all out now. Do not be afraid of failure. You want to live a life where you can look back and enjoy it, because everyone knows the person that said, I wish I had.
Woo! I wish I had. Oh, we all know that's the worst feeling to have in the world. And I'm so excited about this conversation because, first of all, this happened in front of a live audience during Epicenter Week. Epicenter Week was 4 days of amazingness, from community work, elite competitions, the summit, and just really world leaders and local leaders coming together to focus on women's sports. And in this conversation, it will change you. And I know that's a strong thing to say, but when you have 3 elite athletes who are raw and honest, who open up, like Carlo was talking about all his 9 gold medals, then into coaching, and then understanding the difference between him back then and him as a coach now, and that literally at the university level, the moment an athlete enters his space, he knows they will win. And then Shannon Boxx, one of my dearest friends in this world, who showed up. She was on vacation, folks, in San Diego, flew back up to have this conversation in the audience. And when I say I loved it, because I get to know her in a deep level, and I think today you'll get to know her on a whole different level, beyond just winning World Cups and Olympics, but her as a mother, her as a struggler with lupus, but how she uses that to find her light. And then Sylvia Fowles, this introvert. And if you're an introvert listening in, let me tell you, I now recognize that introverts have boldness, they have a drive, and they have beauty within them. She talks about being that introvert, but how she expresses herself not only on the court, but in life. I really am genuinely excited to take this journey with you as you see these elite athletes through vulnerability, through failure, and how they're shining on today.
Listen, we were talking back there, and Carl, the question is going to be, what's your defining moment? But you were speaking about your mother, and for somebody who's accomplished so much in his life, I was like, what's the role your mom had in your life? And I almost wanted to shift the question to, like, how much was the role of your mother a defining part of your success?
First of all, welcome everyone. My mother was important because before I was born, they were heavily involved in the civil rights movement. So, and I was born in Birmingham, Alabama, as they were. So in 1969, my mother started a track team for black girls because there was no access. And I was just asked this question the other day, as what would have happened if we had stayed in Alabama? And I don't think that could have ever happened. So she started this club in 1969. Boys joined later, and that was kind of how I came up. It's funny because I talked to my father about that, and of course my mother said she started it. My father said we started it. So I figured that out pretty well. But after that, she was kind of the stern one.
Yeah.
The one that would go to a track meet and watch, and if you didn't perform your best, not performance time-wise, your best, she'd follow the bus home and bam, we're going to work out because she was a coach. My parents were coaches. And at one point, they were the girls' coaches for the rival schools in our town.
Yeah.
And so like the annual dual meet, that was like, here's dinner, But it was just incredible because, I was watching something last week about the Olympics, and my father passed away young. He was only 60 in 1987. So she went through most of my Olympic career by herself. And just sitting in those stands, think about this, sitting in those stands when every single one of those medals, and even the races I lost, the camera's on her the whole time. The whole time, watching, and she had to always be that stately person. If it was a bad race, she had to still smile, and if it was a good race, she had to not get too happy. So it's extremely, extremely important. Changed so many people's lives, and I'm just, proud that I had the wonderful parents that I had. They were loving, they were caring. My mother was a very strong-willed person. And just to see how the dynamic of how they treated each other was just the perfect thing. And, I try to tell my son and my granddaughter, that's the model that I'd love them to come through. So I couldn't be happier about that.
Woo! Allyship, men who not only are raised by powerful women, and that helps to become who you are, but you are continuing to lead it forward, and we'll get into that in a second. Boxy! She's like, oh boy, what's Kika gonna ask me
I
here?
have to pass that one now.
I would ask you your defining moment, and do not go into our game against each other.
That was definitely one of them. Kidding.
But talk about who you are, because you are a mother, you are a champion, you are somebody you always wanted somebody to play with, never wanted to play against her. I'm telling you, you never want, you see this sweet soul right here? That is not who was on the field.
Definitely.
But tell us about your defining moment.
I think you do. You go back to all of those different parts of who I am, right? And my superpower is my resilience. And I would go back to a defining moment was early on I was a second-year professional in the first WSA, which was the first league here in the U.S. And I was a starter. I wasn't a national team player, but I was a starter. I was the Iron Woman of the team. I'd played every minute of every game. And all of a sudden, we had a coaching change. And he didn't like what he saw. And I went from playing every minute for a year and a half to sitting the bench the rest of the season. And then by the end of the season, got traded. So I was like, wow, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Yeah. And I went through that moment of, this is a roadblock. I either can quit and move on, or I could keep working, figure out how to solve this problem, and do what I wanted to do, which was to become a national team player. And I chose the second one. I said, I'm gonna fight for this, and change my mentality. I went to New York. This is the coach that wanted me. He traded for me. I wasn't the other coach getting rid of me. It was he wanted me. And I worked on my weakest thing, which was fitness. And I became the fittest I'd ever been. I was confident. I went into that third season and just crushed it. And by the end of the year, got called into a national team, and a week before the World Cup, made my first World Cup team.
Woo!
Yeah. And so for me, that was the defining moment of, hey, our journeys are all going to be different, but we're all going to find failure. We're going to find mistakes. And it is those who are successful are the ones that can actually embrace those challenges and keep moving forward. And I had multiple injuries through my career. I had to become a mom, which is challenging in itself. And everything I ever do now, starting a new business, is all based on my resilience.
Love it. Your resilience, and you were one of the first moms to play professional soccer. And I remember watching you, we played on the same team, but it was just like the intentionality of doing extra every single day. And you went on to win a World Cup.
Yeah.
Yep. On the
Finally.
last World Cup. Yep. This is how we talk banter and trash to each other. But phenomenal. Let's go to you. You're like a player, dominant, introvert.
I am an introvert.
Which you would not think. I mean, she is the one that came on here dancing, right? Talk about your defining moment, greatness.
I would say my defining moment was when I was in high school. I was a late bloomer into the basketball world. A coach by the name of Sue Gunner, who was the head coach at LSU at the time, came to watch me play. And she modeled what I grew up on. I had very stern parents. My brothers and my sisters kind of beat up on me and never really gave me anything, so I had to fight for everything. And she was the defining factor for me because she wasn't a coach that came in and gave me all these promises of like what I can have once I got to her university. It was more so of you're a good player, but you can be great. You're a sweet person, but I need you to be a little bit more gritty. And she was like, and I'm not promising you a starting spot. I want you to work for it. And so that was my defining moment of like, this is how I was raised. She set the bar. And of course, I wanted to prove myself. So at that point in time, I knew that's exactly where I needed to be.
Resilience, I feel like that's one of the things we're talking about. And we were talking about now your coaching and, you know, there's a generation where we kind of we were raised where the reason why you came back is because you were surrounded by people who were relentlessly telling you, like, it's not okay. You have to dare to fail greatly. You have to go after things. You're now coaching. And that resilience that we saw, that grit that we saw that made you be so successful, how do you get this next generation to be like that?
It's a challenge because it's a society thing. Society has decided that all of a sudden kids can't take as much as we used to, or maybe we don't want them to handle as much as we had to handle. But of course, that's what made us who we are. So, when I go to practice, it's tough. It's hot. Like we practice at noon in Houston on purpose. And because we could practice at 10 in the morning or at 5 in the evening, but I do it at noon on purpose because that's the hottest time of day. And I want to make sure that they're serious about this. But the biggest thing is trying to teach them, understand why they're there. And being a college coach, and we talked about this, the greatest thing about being in college is that everyone can win because everyone can get a degree, and the vast majority, maybe 1 or 2%, will go to the next level. So you're really coaching of over 100 people. You're coaching 99% to just go get a job. And so that's what I try to keep in their mind. The one thing that I do is when we meet the parents and in the recruiting, I find out who's tough enough. Like I'll do things like give them no perks on the visit. I'll put 2 guys or 2 girls in the same room, and they'll say, "Why was it so and so? They gave me gifts and they put me in my own room." And I said, "Well, you won't make it here then. I know it." I want the people that won't complain. Or a guy comes down the elevator and flip flops and sagging. I'm like, "Okay, I'll wait a minute for you to go put some shoes on and pull your pants up." Mm-hmm. And I want to know who wants to be excellent. And that's really what it's about. It's not just being good or winning a prize. It's about being excellent, because that excellence is going to go with you at every phase of your life. And so when I look at athletes, I went to the Olympics in 4 events, and I won 4 gold medals. But right now, I don't see anyone ever doing that because of the toughest things. Kids stop. If they can, I was a long jumper, and I did the sprints, and I did this, and it sacrificed each event. But the long jump is so much more difficult. So if you're still doing well in the 100, they just quit the long jump. So that's the thing to tell them, focus on the excellence, not just the winning and the prize.
You're hitting on so many things there, because in this day and age, people want people to focus early on one thing because they think that's the path. And now you're saying, like, it's important to just focus on excellence, not just one thing, because...
Absolutely. First of all, I think kids should do all sports and everything. I think that we need to get kids to know early that do multiple things, try different things. Winning and losing isn't the issue. It's evaluate what you want to be and find out early if you really want to be in sports, because most kids, they grow up, they have fun, and then as time goes on, it fades away. The reason kids stop is not because of how tough it is. It's because they lose interest. And why do we lose interest? So why don't we focus on making it more interesting? And we're allowed to focus really on each group and bring them together, but focus on each group so that they can excel in a way that helps them get best.
Love it.
I'm a mom, so I'm listening to everything you said. I'm like, okay, I'm going to memorize that.
We have these conversations often because it is about being a mom and having young children and trying to figure out what's the right thing to do for them, because what was right for us back then may not be right now. But like looking at our kids, I mean, Shannon, I think one of the things you talk about resilience, and I think resilience would be the word to describe you, because you played through managing lupus. And at the time, nobody was talking about it. And we would be having conversations and you're like, today is a tough day. And it was probably because of our relationship, we could talk about it. But there weren't systems in place for somebody who was going through what you were going through. So Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because you're a huge advocate for it,
Yeah.
but most importantly, the role that played in your life, and how could we be better?
Oh man, that's great. No, so those that don't know what lupus is, it's an autoimmune disease that affects every part of your body. So you can have inflammation, you can have extreme fatigue, you can have joint pain, muscle fatigue, all of the above, things that you don't want to see in an athlete at all, ever. And it's a disease of flares. So you can look and feel completely normal, and then the next day you could be knocked on your butt and you won't be able to get out of bed for days, months. Some people have internal issues, and so then obviously they have different set of things that they have to worry about. Mine was a lot of the extreme fatigue. Mine was joint pain, muscle pain. And so I was originally diagnosed in 2008 with lupus, but my symptoms actually started in 2002. So while I was still playing in that first league, I wasn't a national team player yet, and they could not figure it out for 6 years. And so I was dealing with a lot of it on my own, trying to figure out what was going on with my body. I was scared to death to tell anyone what I had because I didn't want them to think, not knowing and understanding what the disease can do and how it works, that they would say, oh, you know what, never mind, we're not even gonna look at you because we don't know if you're gonna feel sick today or tomorrow. And so I kept it very quiet because I was afraid for my job. And then, eventually it was 2011, I finally was like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. And most of it is because I was so stressful and so lonely dealing with it all by myself. I mean, I remember we were trying to qualify for the World Cup. I was in Italy. Everybody went to Venice for the day, and I had a flare, and I had to hide it. And I remember sitting in my room with all my compression pants on, just trying to will myself back into feeling good so that I could play the next day. And eventually I did, and I played 90 minutes. And so it was just such a lonely period because I couldn't tell anybody. I think there was only one person, Christy Rampone was one that I told. I eventually told Karina. But once I came and opened up about it, the support that I had was tremendous. And the energy that I ended up getting because of that support from my teammates, even from my coaches, it showed me that I probably should have done this a long time ago and trusted that I could, but I didn't feel like I could. And I don't know if I could. I think now they knew, okay, you've been doing this for 9 years. I trust you can deal with it. But that was a big thing. So I think just if I'm around a team and having that support, it's really, it's creating an environment that feels safe, that I can be honest. Mm-hmm. It's creating a disclosure environment that I can say these things that won't affect my job. And then also mental health support. There is so much to it that was all mental for me that if I didn't have to deal with all of that on my own, and if I had somebody I could have spoken with, I think it would have been a lot different earlier. And I was able to be successful still, but I would never want someone to go through that same thing. So as an athlete, I get athletes that call me all the time. How do I continue to be an athlete at a top level? How do I tell my coaches? Do I not? And it's so hard. I can't give them that advice. I have to always say, you got to think through this, because some coaches may take it the right way. Some may not because they don't understand it. So education is another big thing. If I talk about lupus itself, this is a tough year for us, research-wise. Everything that's happening in the government, there's lack of research. There used to be 3 medicines that were just for lupus, and everything is cut short. We don't have a cure for it, and there is zero stuff going on to help figure that out at this moment. So obviously just the awareness is big. It takes, again, 6-7 years to even be diagnosed. So knowing the symptoms and helping somebody get there a lot sooner to a doctor is a lot of things that I push when I talk about it.
I just want to follow up because 6 to 7 years to be discovered, mm-hmm. right? You were surrounded by powerful women who just gave you the urge to do it. What can we do here? 6 to 7 years, and then you're talking about the cut of it. Mm-hmm. What can we do here? And then what are the systems for us, like when we're building this epicenter, when we have the people in the room who are dialed in and they're like, how do we create the system that allows the younger version of you to not be in Venice covering up and being scared to tell your truth?
Culture of a safe space, I think, is huge. I think, knowing that mental health and some of these invisible diseases or invisible challenges are not a weakness. I think that proven that we can still be great and do these things, even with the mental health stuff as well. I would say, though, a big piece is just the support and I would say, instead of reactive care, it's pro care. And it's care more than just, right now, teams have care for injury prevention, but that's it. We don't think about the person as a whole person, and I think that's the difference. How do we create an environment that takes care of the whole person? So proactive care, medical, what are we doing? This could have been seen a lot sooner, in my opinion, than when it was. It waited until I could barely actually move on the field, and I was the one that was like, something's really, really wrong with me. And I had to go to my own doctors, and I had to do my own research and figure it out by myself. So proactive care on the medical side is another big piece. I think those are the big ones.
Love it. Over to you, my introvert. She's like, oh boy. I mean, you were elite into your 30s, right? And we talk about the growth of the WNBA. We talked here about the fire. We've just reborn, the rebirth of the fire here. You've been through so many different steps of professional basketball. How did you play at an elite level when things were so different back then?
I had a good support group outside of the basketball space, people who knew me and how hard I worked before I got to that level. So I relied on that support a lot. But also, too, just understanding your body of like what to take, what not to take, but mentally, too. Understanding, like, if you can't go body-wise, then you can't play. So knowing the boundaries of when can I sit this one out? When do I really need to take care of an injury? Can I play through a whole season with an injury? And, like, who am I talking to about this, I think, played an important part for me to play at an elite level at that age.
But you're an introvert,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so how does the introvert, where it's easier for athletes today, right? The introvert can find somebody to kind of tell that story, or there's another person on the team doing that. You were the introvert leading that and being bold enough to say, maybe not today. How did you find that?
Trust. It's understanding that I trust my trainers, that they're gonna tell me the truth about what's going on with my body, but also too, understanding like, I know something is wrong, even when you're telling me something is not wrong, so you have to be very in tune with your body. And I think I also learned that too from a trainer that taught me in college. I had my first injury in college, and she said, look, we can get you back, but if mentally and physically, if you're not feeling your best, you can't go. And so just understanding my body of, like, I can trust you that you're gonna tell me the truth, but I can also trust the people that's in place to get me back on the court.
I love it.
I think what's changed too, more recently, is the individualized, right? Like, it's okay to individualize each person.
Yes.
You might be different than me, and I
Yes.
think that was what came across once I finally did open up about lupus, right? Is that I'm gonna individualize my nutrition, I'm individualizing the workouts that I did to make sure that I can come and be the best version of myself.
Let me ask you a question. What would it have been like for you as an athlete if one of your coaches had said, there's something not right? What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to hear that, to say, but again, it comes down to trust. Do I trust that this person's gonna honor what I say to them?
Yeah, right.
And if I feel that trust, my gosh, if I had that earlier and had the chance to individualize my workouts and had the chance to say, I have a bad day today, I'm having a bad day today, I might need to go a little bit different than the rest of my team.
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm trying to slack or any of that stuff, but it's, do I have that ability to do that? So that would have helped.
So as a coach, then that's important to have that trust, because every year there's something with someone. We of course we have kids with sickle cell and all kind of things, but it's always one person at least that has some issue. And so I think what you're saying is, it's when you see that, it's really important to build that trust so that you can, because a lot of times they're afraid. Because, you know, when you're in college or whatever, you're afraid of losing your job,
Right.
Yeah,
or you're afraid of losing your scholarship.
yeah.
And right now, we're in a space where we can get rid of anyone, you know, because of the new rules.
Right.
So that's interesting. Okay, I mean,
And
that's
I felt like too, like when I did
for
take
me.
that time off, I was actually better when I came back compared to if I just kept pushing and pushing through. We were taught to push through everything, pain, everything, and sometimes it's not the best thing to do. And so when we were able to do that, and a coach that was able to do that was Tom Sermani. He actually, I did end up trusting him and telling him. He was one of my club coaches, and I remember having a couple days here and there, and he could see it. He's like, you don't look the same. How about you just do a little bit less? And I didn't even have to say, I feel terrible today. He just knew. And that was very helpful.
No, you keep going with the questions. Carlos, everybody. Go ahead.
Well, I'm on the stage with some greatness, so I'm trying to, as a coach, when I started to coach, I went to my coach first because I never thought I would be a coach. I went to him first. He gave me a pile of papers and said, I'll see you in a few weeks. Read this. So when I came back, one of the things he said in the conversation was, man, I wish I knew then what I know now. He was 83. And that was a huge lesson to me that no matter who you are, and I think he was the greatest of the 20th century, you're always learning and understanding and open to information. And I think now that we're in a world with more women are in sports and more women are advancing, that's even more important. Anything I can learn to understand this, but the most important thing was taken from that was that here's the greatest coach, he's 83, and he's like, I wish I knew more then. And so it's always learning and always getting information.
So much of it is, especially as former athletes, people seeing in you what you can't see in yourself, right? And I'm sure you're like, yes. The importance of that is so massive because when you're an athlete, you know, this is my strength. And then you're like, okay, what else do I have? So you're a coach. Here I am coaching Carl Lewis. You're a coach. But it's just so powerful. They're talking about team sports and you're an individual sport. So let's tap into that.
Well, the thing is what's interesting, what I found is both of them are different but totally the same. And I always use this example of, football's a team sport until that lineman misses the block and the running back gets blasted, Or even on the soccer, if you're getting open and they hit the ball behind. I mean, it was an individual shot they missed in a team sport. And in track and field, it becomes a team sport because all these individual minds are different. Like we basically coach everyone relatively the same, and then the personalities are different. So it's the 85-15. So 85% has to be the same, and then the 15% is different from everyone. Well, there are some of the kids that don't buy into what you're doing. So instead of just not buying in and leaving or saying, I don't want to do this anymore, their job is to bring other people with them. So therefore you have to look out for that part too, because you could have this whole individual group and 2 people can end up changing 5 people, which takes the whole team down. So you have to watch for that part of it as well. So now it's a thing where you're coaching them, you're watching them, are they okay? And then you'll hear something, well, so-and-so was saying something, you have to pull them aside and say, if there's an issue, discuss it with me. We don't discuss it because there's only one coach. Sometimes in coaching, you end up with 16 coaches.
Or in life.
I'm like, there's only one of us. And so that's the nonstop constant thing. But I have to remind them, like I'm sure you do with your children. We weren't born at 30. I mean, I actually did your age and all of that stuff. So, and so that's the thing that makes it fun, watching these kids develop. And you hope that you've done enough for them in their lives where they'll come back and help other people, or they'll come back and say you made a difference. That's the thing. I mean, I have my gold medals. I'm financially set and everything else, so I'm not out there for anything. And it's just that I'm at a stage in my life where I have time and I can try to help my university to change my life. That coach changed my life, so I'm trying to do the same thing he did. So that's kind of my motivation, and it helps. And so the young people want to be great, but it's our job to help them find out what they're really going to be.
Exactly.
And, very few are going to be the great athlete, but they can all be great people, and that's what it's about ultimately.
I think one of your former coaches said, coaches are the caretakers of the dreams of the athletes. I saw you both shaking your head when I was saying, it's important for those to see in you what you didn't see in yourself. Why were you shaking your head? Go.
Oh, goodness, right on the spot. I was saying that because I think that's a very normal thing. I feel like, at least for me, I'm a perfectionist. I want to be perfect at everything, and I'm going to be my biggest critic.
Yeah.
And so I've definitely gone through so many stages and I'm saying that as a mom, like I can take sports out of it, and I'm like questioning myself every single day. Am I a good mom? Am I this? And where, you need people like KK in your life who's just going to tell you you're great every single day. That's why I love you so much. But I think as you continue to move up that ladder, just it becomes tougher and tougher, in my opinion. You're just always having to be on. And the U.S. team, someone was already ready to take your spot if you didn't show up.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was just, I'm always so critical of myself. Oh, if that wasn't good enough, that wasn't good enough, that wasn't good enough. It was always so good to have that teammate or that person next to you who's like, that was good today.
Yeah,
Just to remind yourself, you know,
Yeah.
like you were good today, and then you can move on.
I love it. I think one of the things we're doing here is creating the pathways for players once they retire. Like, you know, Nike's talked about it. They have the program where they have over 60 former WNBA players. Like, here with what we're trying to do, we're trying to create roles in positions. I mean, I'm doing my dream job right now because a role was created by me for people who saw in me what I didn't see in myself. How about you?
I shook my head because growing up, I was always the biggest, always the quickest for my size, but I never quite understood my potential. And so I don't think I would be here on this stage without like the coaches pushing me, telling me how good I am, or my siblings telling me like I did a great job at a game tonight, although we lost. But understanding that the little things, those little things factor into, you know, you being great. And so I was always hard on myself. I was my toughest critic as well. And so, like, I didn't see the vision. I didn't see my potential, but other people saw it before I saw it.
You know, I mean, a lot of people here look at you all as athletes and being like, you were great. Like, really, you kept chasing for the next big thing. And we always talk about this, like, what is success, right? Because it's no longer winning and losing. It's redefining what success is. Now in your life, what does success look like?
For me, it's giving back. I had so many people fall in that line. We wasn't the richest family growing up in the projects. And so I just had so many people look out for me to get to where I needed to be, whether that was buying my school clothes, getting my school shoes, making sure I got to school on time, making sure somebody was picking me up from school because my mom couldn't do it herself. And so I think just giving back and giving other people those opportunities to let them see, like, you're not alone and you might not have the resources, but you have people here that cares. I think that's very important.
People that care. So Portland, with the WNBA team, we have over 12,500 seats. I know, deposits.
That's crazy.
I know, see? So, like, I know you're, like, excited for us. And you see, I mean, you talked about you watched the unveiling of the fire. She's like, that's fire. Talk about what it's like to now look back and see a small city like this doing these big things with the intentionality of building a facility made for women. We have the Portland Thorns that's changed the trajectory of women's soccer. Like,
Yes.
talk about what that's like to just kind of see that evolve.
Well, that part is already done. The foundation is done. You all backing these ladies is the most important. And it will show once these women get out there, the support and the love that you give them, then you build off that. The work is already done. You did that part, but it's just to get a team here and actually get in action, I think it's going to be wild.
Yeah, I know. Over 8,000 tickets way
8,000
back when.
tickets.
Right? Right? You played in front, like, this is us, right?
This is Portland. Okay? I mean, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. You all are doing a really good job.
Shannon Boxx, I know you're an owner for a different club, which we won't say a name of. But you are a season ticket holder.
I have been a season ticket holder for 12 years.
Let's give her a round of applause for that. I mean, you've seen this game evolve. If I go back to 1999, you know, it was the first time people saw sold out stadiums, you know, and as players back then, we're like, oh my God. And then it just continued to evolve. And then you take your kids to these games where you see history being made. You see the impact of a signed autograph or being a ball girl at the game. You see the power of these athletes. What is that feeling like for you, knowing that you laid that foundation and now our young girls get to see it and believe it, but knowing that you played a pivotal role in that?
I mean, one, just so honored that you even say that. But I think when I think about that, it's because of the people that came before me. They got even less. And I had to, someone said earlier, just like riding on the shoulders of the past and learning and teaching. And I think that's how, when I had the privilege of playing in all three leagues that are here in the U.S., I got to play on the national team with 3 different generations. So I got a little last piece of the 99ers in 03 and 04 with Julie Foudy and Mia Hamm. And then I had my core group with Abby Wambach, and then the next group with Alex Morgan and Megan Rapinoe. And I got to learn, I got to teach, I got to learn, I got to teach, I got to learn, I got to teach, and then I got to watch them and see where they've gotten this game. And it has grown so much, and it is growing in the right direction. Now, is there still more we can do? Of course, there always is gonna be. But to see the people in the stands, you just mentioned, like my kids they think it's normal to go to a Thorns game, 20,000 people all cheering for a women's team. And I'm like, yes, this is normal. It needs to be better. And like, it is so fun to watch their eyes and see it. And even my son cheering for the women's teams and wanting them to be better. And so, you know, I think that it's just the evolution's been amazing. I think what Portland itself is doing, I know I have Angel City over there, but what Portland is doing.
You don't say the name.
I know. But what Portland, even when I came here 12 years ago, we moved here from California, and it was because this was a soccer center. I loved it. I loved that I could come up here and I knew it was a soccer community, and how invested the community is in the women's game and the men's game, but the women's game especially, watching it. You guys, Thorns was the first ones in 2013 for a soccer-specific stadium, right? And making that a priority, and then everywhere else wanted to follow suit, and they still didn't. And then now you guys are doing even more, and it's like, yes, now this is the new standard, because now teams are starting to get soccer-specific. Well, guess what? They just created an entire facility that's going to have this, and this, and it's all going to be for the athletes. I just love that you guys are the central part of creating change.
Just like you did. You know, it's cool because if you go to a park here in Portland, she's talking about her son, boys are wearing female jerseys, and that's normal. Like, I had to catch myself because a couple years ago, I went to a park and I saw all these 11, 13-year-old boys wearing jerseys. I was like, oh, where's your sister? I had to catch myself. There was no sister. That's what's normal here. And so I guess my question to you is, like, I mean, you're coming from track and we're talking about team sports, but you are advocate for women's sports. Like, I looked at some of the stuff. Like, you will talk about and celebrate men, but you are an advocate for women's sports. And when you hear about what we're doing here for the female body, for a city of her, the global epicenter of women's sports, and you know what? You showed up to this. Why?
It's, you know, first of all, role model. You know, I had the ultimate role model, my parents, and someone that I looked up to, that I admired. I heard the stories that, because what was important, what you said, she ran track as well in the 50s. So it was a whole different story. You know, there was a thing where, and especially as a black woman, they didn't have access to anything. She went to the Pan Am Games, the first one, they had to raise their own money to go, even though the Olympic team took it, but they were not going to take any track people. They were not going to take any women. So that was the first part of it. Then my second thing is my sister was, I mean, just an incredible athlete. I saw that, and I saw the power in sports. And when you're in a sport like track and field, even the men and women don't compete against each other, obviously, but you can still see the power in these women running. And I think that the time is now, because, you know, women are being successful in all of these leagues and ideas. And I think even with the WNBA, which is interesting because we're hearing about all of that, maybe it's just me, but I think the ultimate flex is going to say, thank you for your service, and let's just break off and do our thing. That's just me. because you know, I think that it's a time that could happen. And so ultimately what it's about is that people love excellence. And young people, if you take young boys and girls and expose them, they will like the excellence. They will like the sports. Girls have done it for years. Sports have always reached out to women to come in to watch their sport, you know, obviously from a financial standpoint. But I think once we start focusing on the excellence of what it is, then kids get it. And then when you have an area like Portland that is already leading in those areas and doesn't have every single sport, then why not just go for the excellent sport and just say, no, we don't have a football team, so it's over. Well, no, we have a great team over here. We have a great team over here. And look what the women are doing. And they're winning championships because people love winning. Mm-hmm. And when people are successful and they love winning, they want to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I think 3 championships on the Thorn side, we like to win. We like to set standards. WNBA, No pressure, Claire. We like to win. But I think one of the things is everyone here wants to hear your call to action to them, because the athletes are the center of what we do. We've heard from innovation, we've heard from investment, we've heard about the opportunity of women's sports, but at the core of it is the athlete. So each of you, having known your past and knowing where we are today and knowing what we're doing, and like everyone's actually, no one's on their phones, everyone's looking at you.
You video, hey.
Hey, let's start with you, Mr.
You know what I tell the women, the track athletes, excuse me, the girls, I say when we're practice, we're working hard and it's tough and everything else. And I just tell them, you know what? The most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life is every single one on that podium. Everyone's beautiful on that podium. Everyone's beautiful when they're performing. Everyone's beautiful when they are giving their best. And so I have one of the things I do is every day I try to make them laugh once, because they're getting ready to make them cry in a few minutes. and so I think the biggest thing is if you want to live a life where you can look back and enjoy it, because everyone knows the person that said, I wish I had. And you have the friend that says, man, remember 8th grade? I'm sorry, I don't remember 8th grade, and put it all out now. Do not be afraid of failure, because that's what's so important, the message. Because, I went to 4 Olympics. I won 4 gold medals the first time, but 2 to second, 2 to second, 2 to third, 1 to 4th, right?
Yeah, I confuse my gold medals too.
But I tried on, and a silver. But you know what? I tried 4 times. I tried 4 times, and so if you really think of it, I won 9 golds and a silver, but I tried for 16. And so the reason I did at 35 is because I didn't want to say, God, I wonder if I could have done it. And so I think we need to continue to build the confidence in them to understand that your personal excellence is beautiful. And whether it's on the podium or whether it's there or whether it's watching, your personal excellence is beautiful. Your hard work is beautiful. Not being afraid of failure, because you can fix that. But you can't fix what you don't know. And so that's what we push them to do every day. You can't fix what you don't know.
Woo! Just taking notes here, sorry. I mean, are you guys?
I would say this complete topic today was centering the athlete. And I would say, as a former athlete, someone who feels safe, who feels valued, and who feels they can be empowered. Those are 3 important things that every athlete should feel all the time, not just on the field, off the field as well. And so I think about an athlete as a whole person. And so making sure if they don't feel that way, how do you get them to feel that way?
Love it.
Me, I would say understanding your why. Why are you doing what you do? What's your purpose? What are you trying to accomplish? For me, basketball just was a scapegoat for me to get where I want to be. And do that, you made a lot of sacrifices. You gave up a lot of opportunities to be with family. So understanding why you're doing what you're doing and where you see yourself in the next 15 years.
I love it. You wanted to say something. Go ahead.
No, I was just listening. That it's just funny you said that, because I always do this line that I used to miss the parties, now I give them. So
Make up for them.
now I give them, because and what's so important, what's here is that you have to drive and understand that there's so many things to go over. And it's just so interesting listening, because me as a coach, I'm listening to what you're saying to take back to the athletes, especially from a woman's perspective. Because that's, I've only coached women now full-time 3 years. And, my job was to understand them first and understand how they were different from men. Not just like, well, you're not like them. It's like, what are you like? And then now I have to have an adjustment, because ultimately the job is to motivate everyone to be their best. And so it's important to hear, for this conference, for me to be here, because to understand that sports is universal. And it's one of the wonderful universal things. And what the little things that we do can make a big difference in a lot of people's lives. So it's my pleasure. I know there are not a lot of guys here that are up here, but the bottom line is that we asked a lot of women. Women have been involved in men's sports forever, so why can't we be involved in theirs?
Preach. All right. Well, thank you so much, each and every one of you, for showing up. Thank you for being an ally. Thank you for the greatness that you each exemplify every single day. I've had goosebumps listening to you. I know this audience has appreciated you. You guys showed up for Portland, and even those who live here flew back in. So thank you so much. A round of applause.
Goosebumps indeed. I hope you took a lot away out of this conversation because, for me, being on stage with these three athletes, the younger version of myself would be pretty proud because not only did we have a conversation that mattered, we had a conversation that made myself think, made other people think, and my takeaways were simply this. Shannon Boxx, I was going to call her Boxy. She talked about creating a culture of trust, being in a place where athletes can feel that they matter, feel seen, feel empowered, which is so important, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. But I hope you can create that culture no matter where you are today, whether it's with your family, whether you're leading an organization, or whether you're just having a conversation with somebody. Having a space where people feel they can be seen, heard, empowered, and mattered is huge. Sylvia Fowles, she talks about her why, her purpose. And I think for us, taking out of all of this is us walking away understanding, why do we do what we do? What is our purpose on this earth? And making sure that everything we do does matter. And it means matter to ourselves sometimes, not just matter to others. And then Carl Lewis, it was pretty powerful to have a man who's accomplished that much be on stage and say it was important for me to be here, because allyship in men is so huge. But for him to say that this is going to make him a better coach, and the notes he talked about was personal excellence. Every single day, some of us chase perfection. I'm one of those. But it's about chasing personal excellence and knowing what your excellence looks like to go after it. We just listened to Olympic champions, World Cup champions, WNBA champions. But most importantly, I hope you walk away from this understanding that you are a champion. And if you take some of these little tidbits and apply it to life, this was your time well spent. Thanks for listening in. Please subscribe, follow, share, give rave reviews, and we'll see you next time.